Do you find it hard to explain to friends and family what you now do? Are you wasting valuable time by attempting to figure out challenges on your own? We have created a community for ex-corporate people running their own business who want to live a life they love whilst giving back to their community. This is the Build, Live, Give show. We bring you first-hand experiences of guests going through many of the struggles you face each and every day. We get real with no corporate BS. And now your host, Paul Higgins.
Welcome to the Build, Live, Give podcast, episode number 12. I'm Paul Higgins, and today I'd love to welcome Clarissa Hughes. Clarissa runs a company called NEN, N-E-N Consulting. And Clarissa and I worked for Coca-Cola together, and then she went on to work for a company called SunRice. And be honest, Clarissa goes through her journey of being completely exhausted, and she really needed a change. And she went through that change, and you'll hear her wonderful journey. She's gone through that. You'll also learn a few little secrets about Clarissa, particularly about her loving karaoke. But she was living two different worlds, and now she's combined it into one. And she gives you a lovely story about her daily routine and also her particular cause, which is One Step, One Life. So you're going to really enjoy this podcast and continue to give the reviews, the 5-star reviews we love. And also the more you share this podcast, the greater that we can impact the community. And if you'd like to know more about the community, you can go to Facebook and look up Build, Live, Give. And it's a closed community, but if you fit the right criteria, we'd love to have you in it. So now get your pens and paper at the ready, and we're going to hand over to Clarissa.
So welcome, Clarissa Hughes, founder of MEN Consulting, to Build, Live, Give podcast. So today we're going to find out a lot about your backstory and more importantly, what you're doing today. But why don't you just start with a brief story of how you got to where you are now?
Well, thank you, Paul. I've been in corporate life for 28 years, and I've been a very senior global person, working in the insight space on some of the world's most famous brands. And in lots of ways, I really loved that job. But unfortunately, I hit a stress crisis when I was about 5-6 years after moving to Australia. And I realized that I needed to change my life on a day-to-day basis. And I became much more involved with mindfulness and meditation. And through that, I became very inspired that this is what I wanted to do with other people, to help them have a different relationship with their day-to-day life so that they could be calmer and happier in themselves, and that I wanted to be that. So I began a journey to train to become a mindfulness teacher and then build a business that was viable to do that.
Excellent. And for the BLG listeners out here, Clarissa and I actually worked together at Coca-Cola. And yes, Clarissa, I can sort of empathise with you, the stress and the environment that we used to work in. And at that stress, had it been sort of building over time, or was there any particular incident that comes to mind?
I think it had been building over time, but I think we're very good at, and I certainly was very good at suppressing that and thinking, oh yeah, I'll be fine. I'll run around madly doing way too many things and then I'll rest a bit on a Sunday or whatever. And I don't think I was really listening to what my body was telling me. And then I actually changed jobs, and that's when I just hit a wall, really. And that was when I left Coke and went to another role, and I really felt, wow, now I feel out of my depth.
Right, yes. And it's amazing what the norm becomes. I must admit, for me, it took quite some time when I left to really find myself again, because I'd become someone that I didn't really know, to be honest. I don't know if you have gone through a similar journey yourself.
I definitely think that I'd become somebody that was quite short with people, not taking the time to be as warm and friendly, which I think I probably am deep down, and probably dealing with me was quite difficult. I was quite fragmented and trying to do 100 things at 100 miles an hour. but I'm actually quite an introverted person. And was having all the time to be very extroverted, to be heard. And so I was really quite out of my comfort zone.
Great. And look, we'll go into that in a little bit more, but something for the BLG listeners outside of the work environment. So tell me something that your friends or family would know about you that us as listeners wouldn't.
Well, I think that secret might have come out on the weekend, that I really like to sing karaoke.
Right.
And I know that's really funny. And I always liked it. I got introduced to it many, many years ago when I went to Japan. And just the fact that you hand me a microphone and I can just sing. And I'm afraid that came out on Saturday night out with a group of women that I'm in a business coaching group with. And we went out and I had a really good time. They're all going, "Oh, wow, she's singing."
Excellent. So you must have been quite good then.
I don't know. It sounded a bit like cats being strangled, but, never mind.
Yeah, look, I always laugh when I go to the Philippines to see my team. The worst singer in my team is so much better than myself. So we actually have one lady who was an international singer, and she was brilliant. She sounds like Mariah Carey. So whenever I have to get up and sing, I make sure that I do a duet with her. So it covers some of my sins. But yeah, no, I'm glad that's a hidden talent of your own. It's certainly not for me. And was there a particular point when you thought, okay, that's it, I'm going to actually go out and do something myself? Was it a particular point, or once again was that sort of building over time?
I think there was a point. When I started the training in mindfulness, I didn't set out initially to be a teacher, but I met lots of people who were really inspirational. And I thought, gosh, they're doing something that really is changing people's lives. I think I'd like to be part of this journey. And it happened on a weekend workshop south of Sydney. And I suddenly goes, this is what I want to do. Because I think all the way I've been thinking, oh, do I want to be a yoga teacher? Do I want to be a homeopath? And nothing really felt and rang true. So maybe the thought to do something had been different in my head. But I hadn't actually identified it until that moment. That's nearly 4 years ago. And I was like, yep, this is it.
Great. So once you decided, this is it, what were some of the fears that came to your mind at that time?
I think, strangely enough, one of the biggest fears was, are people going to take me seriously? Sounds strange. It was not so much about, oh, I can't do this, but will they take me seriously? Many of the people that I trained with have come from very caring professions, or they're psychotherapists, or they're doctors. And I think people are going to take a corporate person seriously here, because I don't have a classical psychology background, although I've studied quite a lot in that space. So those were the kind of fears that I had when I started out on this journey.
Yes, and did you? So when you talk to your colleagues and your boss, etc., in the corporate world, what were their reactions and thoughts when you said, "This is what I'm going off to do"?
I think there was a bit of strange eye rolling, really. I think that's like, she's gone a bit hippie, and they say, "Oh yeah," they kept passing me little articles about people who meditate and kind of live in an ashram or whatever, and I'm like, no, that's not what I'm about. I'm about being here in the middle of everybody's everyday life and working with them. It doesn't mean you're some sort of strange, different person. Not that anybody who's a yoga teacher or that is strange. That we're all there to do the best we can. But no, they didn't quite follow me on the journey, I think. Other friends did. All my friends and my family and lots of people I met, through networking groups and socially, they were very supportive. But my actual corporate colleagues were, some of them, really very unsure of what to say to me. Yes.
No, look, a lot of the people I interview, that's definitely what they say as well. And you sort of do change circles of friends and influence. And you said you're involved in a a network with some ladies. Just talk to me a bit about that. I'm sure that they've helped you along the journey. Just who is it and how have they helped you?
So I actually met the founder of this group, Faye Hollins. She's a business coach, and she's actually helped me a lot, and I'm sure we'll talk a bit more about that. But she founded a group for busy business women and like a Thrive network. And they've been tremendous at supporting us all together in practical ways, in supporting each other and high-fiving each other a lot, even on small wins. And that's been great because there's other women like myself who have left corporate careers in banking, in marketing, to follow their passions. And that's great to have that support.
Yeah, excellent. And, I know you're a member of the Build, Live, Give community, which is great, which is another good support network. And, I run a group as well. And I think it's so important for people to find that because, as you said, sometimes your closest peers and people that got you in one particular life don't always get you in the next one. So to be surrounded by the right people is great. And when you first, either go into a social network or into a networking event and someone says, what do you do now? How do you describe what you do?
I tell them I'm a mindfulness trainer and that what I do is help people to live well. I help people to become self-aware and remove some of their habits that aren't supporting them, and through that find a place of calm, stillness and contentment.
Excellent. And this is a little bit of self-interest. I woke up early this morning. I know we're interviewing early this morning, and I did my 10 minutes of meditation. But what are some of the key things you think someone could do to help live well and follow the path that you're going down?
I think there's a number of different steps that I would say come into that. I think one of them is, yes, meditate, but don't push yourself too hard. Meditate if you can every day. 10 minutes is great. I also think getting a much deeper understanding of the habits that you have, what is draining you, what is sustaining you, and learning to pace yourself. It's something we're not very good at. So actually learning to take enough breaks in the day, understand the situations and the peoples that really push your button, and look at ways that you can minimize the things that aren't good for you and actually maximize those that are good for you.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And I know for me, practically, I've just started wearing my iWatch again. And what I love is that it notifies me when to stand. So when I've been sitting too long, and also when to breathe. And I don't know what the trigger is, but it's great. It during the day, it'll stop me and prompt me for a minute to just breathe, inhale, exhale. I found just doing that has made a massive difference to my ability to think clearer. Is that is that similar to what you found?
That is actually mindfulness in action. So that's mindfulness in your daily life. So you're really doing that already, which is great, Paul. And that's definitely a huge part of what I teach. Even though meditation is very important for building your ability to be more in touch with your body and your own sort of sensations and how your body's responding to the world, pacing can be done 23, 20, 24 and 24 hours of the day if you wanted to, compared to your meditation, which might be at best half an hour. And you can drive yourself crazy for the rest of the time. So I think pacing is one of the fundamentals that I teach, particularly with pain patients who really benefit from simple pacing techniques, because they often have a tendency to over or under exert what they're doing.
Yeah, I think that's great. And look, for me, I've got a mild condition to do with my kidneys, and it certainly helps me better navigate through that just before I go to complete kidney failure. So I've definitely seen the direct benefits from me. And I know that a lot of our listeners will love to find out more, and we'll let them know how to find out more on this later on. But, obviously I can tell the passion and the knowledge that you've got on this particular topic, and sort of how does that differ from when you were in corporate talking about, your consumer research and consumer insights? Is there a difference? And if there is, how is it different?
I think I was always very passionate about consumer insights because I actually like the intellectual challenge of it. But this is more about the heart. This is about putting people at the front and center of what I do. And it's really about compassion. I think mindfulness is love. And that's something in the corporate world, it's profit first, fair enough, and people kind of second.
Yeah, look, it's so true. And I know that there's a person I'm interviewing soon who is talking about where there's been major, so there's really good people that have been unfortunately caught up in decisions made by a company that they're not congruent with. So, an extreme example, I suppose, is Nazi Germany, where there's a particular company that's still in existence today that actually built all the gas chambers. Now, there were some brilliant and really good people that were involved, but somehow they were caught into something that they didn't actually personally believe in, but as part of an organisation they did. And I think that shift, and it'll be interesting to see what happens, but, the growth of entrepreneurs and the growth of our listeners where they're actually, trying to make a mark on the world and actually do something and give back, which is something you're doing, and I will talk about give in a moment, I think is a real turning point. And, from a research perspective, do you see more of this, Clarissa? Because I always go with a hands-on approach, but from a quantitative or qualitative perspective, do you see that more, that people are actually making the decision like you and I to leave and follow their passion?
I definitely do. I mean, I meet a lot of people who are leaving corporate life to do something different. I had the opportunity to catch up with a former Coke colleague of ours who's now on International Women's Day, and she's leading an amazing thing called Team Women Australia, and partner up with lots of other amazing women and men to really talk about changing the way we do business, thinking about individuals and thinking about our world differently. So I'm meeting people all the time who are leaving to do something that follows that heart, that makes a difference to other people. And young people coming through, I think the challenge is how are we going to entice them to want to be part of the corporate world unless it changes?
Yeah, look, it's so true. And I suppose for me, it was a little, look, Coke was a brilliant company. I loved working there. It was, meeting great people like yourself, and I learnt a lot. But at the end of the day, for my particular passion and cause, diabetes is caused, predominantly by sugar. So working for one of the biggest sugar companies in the world wasn't in line with my values and my beliefs. And it took me a while to sort of come to that realization. But once I did, that's where, the shifts happened for me. And it's funny, like you and I used to have great conversations, but ultimately we were predominantly selling sugar.
Indeed. And I think those are the things you question. Is that what I want to be taking with me as my legacy on the world? Or is there not more that we can do that's more in tune with how each and every one of us feels about the world, whether that's about people and their health or whether that's the planet, whatever it is? I think those are the conversations I'm hearing more and more about. And the need to be recognised as an individual rather than fitted into a corporate scheme, which may not be, who you really are. We're then ending up with multiple personalities that are quite difficult to manage. You're your corporate self, and then you're yourself at home, and I think I'd rather just be me. And I think that there are lots of people I meet who would rather just want to be one integrated self rather than, having a face to the world that isn't genuine.
Oh, look, yeah, that's an excellent point. I totally agree. And about your business, I think you said it's quite new. This new business of yours, Men Consulting. Just tell us a little bit about your plans for that business.
My plan for the business is to keep my business bespoke and, local to Australia. Let's put it like that. I'm not looking for it to become some massive global conglomerate. I run a number of courses, so that's how I run my business. Some of those are face-to-face and some of those are online. But the way I look at it is I want to be able to work with people to give them the techniques and the tools that I've been taught so that I can help them to really enhance their life. So that's my plan. And if I can make a difference to people's lives, that would be really good. So those are my plans to do that. I don't have huge profit targets. It's much more about helping people in that way.
Great. And how are you going to go about finding your ideal client?
Well, I've really got two routes. Obviously, with corporate clients, that is my networks that I have that I've already had from business. LinkedIn is a big tool for me to use to connect with people there, and obviously belonging to a wide range of various groups where I connect back in on a face-to-face basis with people so that they get to hear me. I do a lot of speaking engagements, a lot of free talks, lunch and learns, town hall meetings to really build up my business as well. So I'm targeting senior managers, and people who are the gatekeepers for health and well-being inside their businesses.
Great, and a couple of karaoke performances in there as well.
Oh, absolutely. On my health side of my business, I'm actually part of a number of community of practices. I'm very active within the Women's Health and Research Institute in Australia, which is a coming together of clinicians and allied health professionals to bring a patient-centric approach to pain management. And so I'm part of that. And I also co-collaborate a lot with other health professionals like acupuncturists, chiropractors, osteopaths, whatever who are open to connecting and working alongside me to bring patients in that space a holistic approach to their pain management. And I meet a lot of those people in networking. BNI has been very useful, although I'm not a BNI member. And then just generally, putting leaflets and chatting to people.
Great. And I know you're very early on, but what have been some of the biggest challenges that you've faced launching your own business?
Yes, my biggest challenge, I think, is just really getting enough people to commit to come to training. I think that's people sign up and then don't commit. Whether that's a Sydney thing, I don't know. But that is certainly something that and so it takes a long time to build up your testimonials and a bit of building up your email list.
Yes, and look, I think that's a lot of our listeners go through similar challenges, and I think that's the persistence of running your own business that you constantly learn, but you just got to stay on the course, and it will come. Is I suppose the key bit of advice I can give from personal experience. And just on advice, what's some of the best advice that you've received so far for running your business?
One of them was to be less generalist and more niche, rather than trying to chase the world and his dog to come, because then people aren't clear. Be really clear about what your business is about and who your targets are, and have a sort of an avatar, as if you like, about that, because at least you're you're targeting your business. I think that's important. That goes back to obviously my consumer insights background, that you wouldn't try and get everybody. You'd have a target, and that's your core target, and you go after that. So applying that learning, but really thinking about that within the context of my business.
Yeah, I think that's so important, and especially people that, like you said, your corporate friends, peers, etc. It makes it very easy for them to help you if you're very clear and you set a very clear niche. And a lot of times when you're in your own business, actually, you fear rejection, and I think it's really important that, you know, there is a large proportion of the population you're saying, look, you know, this may not be for you, but I'm very, very clear on who is. So I think that's a great point you raise. And I'm sure, you know, all that research and insights that you've gained from your experience in consumer insights should say will definitely help. So the next section is sort of the last section where we move on to Liv, or before we do the quick question round. Tell me about your typical day. You know, what does your typical day look like?
So my typical day is that I like to wake up early, probably why we're doing this at 7 a.m. in the morning. I normally get up around 5 or 5:30, and I find that's a good time. It's quiet, and I go to meditate. And that's my half an hour of just being there and letting whatever unfold. And it kind of sets the framework for the day. My mind is clear and calm when I start the day, then things can move forward from there. After that, I can sort of get to my emails and eat breakfast and fit in some exercise before I actually sit down and start working. So that's really my day. And then I'll work through, you know, taking breaks. If the weather's nice, I might go for a quick walk around the block or something halfway through the afternoon, or something, just so that I'm keeping pace to myself. And the days will just depend. If I'm teaching. I'm obviously teaching for, you know, three hours plus. If I'm just at home, then I'm writing, working, you know, doing whatever it is I'm doing for that day. And I'm quite structured about each day, that I've got very clear goals to achieve.
Great. And how does, especially, you know, that 5 a.m. start meditation, the exercise, the breaks, you know, does that differ at all of what it was like when you were working full-time in corporate?
Yes, it does, because although I'd meditate, I'd be going, oh my God, I need to hurry up. I've got, you know, I felt the deadline to get out the door and go to the bus, you know, even though really that's not really there. That deadline's ticking ahead. Here, I haven't got that deadline on myself that another person or organization is putting onto me. And it's the ability to kind of structure your day how you like it to be. I mean, if it's a super nice day, you know, my exercise might involve a walk down to the beach, a quick swim, the walk back, where you wouldn't do that very easily if you're running for the bus.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And I loved your point earlier about, you know, minimizing what's not good. And if I just look about, you know, you and I, how much time we spent in meetings, and, you know, remember all those presentations that you had to do, which you knew were just doing presentations for presentation's sake. You know, all of that is sort of removed to actually put in the things that are most important, or the things that you really love to do. So I know for you it's sort of early in your journey, but given the field that you're working in, you'll be, you know, a lot more specific around it. But I think for a lot of listeners that have got that freedom and working for themselves, it's a great time to put some of the techniques that you talk about back into their life.
Definitely. I think just that sense. And I notice I don't eat as much, you know, and I'm exercising, and I'm feeling far less pressure already than I had when I feel like, as you said, Paul, completely trapped when you open your diary and it's literally wall-to-wall meetings and you think, when am I going to get anything done? Whereas here, I feel like every day I've kicked a goal, however small it is, and that is what sustains you.
Yeah, and it's great, and I think having that peer network, as you spoke about before, also helps keep that going. So, yeah, it's it's an inspiration. It's great. And now on to the giving part. So is there a cause or a community that you're passionate about? And if so, why?
I've become very passionate about a charity based in Cambodia called One Step, One Life. I had a lovely holiday in Cambodia with my son about 3 or 4 years ago. And one of the choices for choosing a guide in Siem Reap was that I wanted to choose one that was connected to an NGO. And we happened to connect with the most amazing person who had formed this charity to give children in Cambodia who are living in sort of semi-rural conditions around Siem Reap an opportunity to get basic primary education for free and encourage those children who could to go on to secondary education and even tertiary education. And the charity was formed in collaboration with a young Australian from Sydney, and it's going from strength to strength. When I visited only 3 years ago, there was no school as such. It was just a lean-to against a wall. And now there is a fully built school with desks and books, and one child has actually gone to high school. And I'm very passionate about this because as an area like Siem Reap begins to develop in tourism, and it's grown tremendously in the last few years, with hotels popping up for particularly Chinese and Korean tourists. The subsistence farmers who live around the area are often removed from their land, and they end up living and begging inside the Siem Reap kind of park, and selling rubbish, which nobody really wants to buy, and that is a loss of so much. But if their children can get an education, they have a hope to work within the tourist industry that's evolving. They can get a variety of jobs, and obviously encouraging people to be able to be literate and more independent and a little less at the whims of just having a house and village swept away feels like a right thing to do.
Excellent. That's great. And the link to that cause will be in the show notes. If someone's listening to this and they want to get more involved and support that particular cause, is there anything else they could do, Clarissa?
They can help donate. There is a Facebook page for One Step, One Life, and they have regular market stalls here in Sydney. They have some good, for those of them people out there who are very fit, they have some biking challenges in Cambodia. There's a whole different ways that you can get involved. And if you visit Siem Reap now, they've actually opened a cafe which is training people with, barista and other skills. So if you're there, the link shows you where the cafe is, and you can actually, make a positive donation or just buy some things there, which is supporting the charity further.
Excellent. Great. And so the last round is just a series of quick questions. It doesn't have to be quick answers, but quick questions around some action that the BLG listeners can take. So the first one is, what's your number one personal productivity tip?
Set yourself some goals for the week, maybe only 2 or 3. And really, I work on those, and those are the things that I'm going to achieve. They're not huge. They're not, but they could be things like, I'm going to do a lead magnet and I'm going to launch that. I'm going to ring X number of people and I'm going to maybe write a blog. So I do 1, 2, 3, and those are my goals for the week. And I really stay focused on those. Even if there's 100 other things twirling underneath, I won't work towards those 3.
Excellent. And just a little build on that is, in the BLG community, that's sort of posted each week and you can put them in there. And I think the accountability of actually sharing that and making those public can go a long way in helping achieve those as well. So that's great advice. Whether it's now or, your mobile phone, what are some of the key apps that sit on your home screen that you, use on a daily basis?
I have my social media apps, Facebook and Instagram in particular. I also have my LinkedIn app so that I can keep obviously on top of, the conversations that are going on, and I can just, see throughout the day. I have my mail app there. And then I like to have my meditation app, my Insight Timer app, which is like, free downloads of meditation. So I have that there.
Okay, excellent, great. And whether it be podcasts or books, what are a couple of favourites that come to mind?
I have a couple of favourite books. I'm an active participant at the Sydney Buddhist Centre, and there is a book there I particularly like, which is called The Art of Reflection, which is a really nice, deep book about stillness and calm, which is written by a former teacher of mine, Gary Hennessy, and that's a wonderful book. I can dip in and out of that multiple times. And in terms of listening to podcasts, I like listening to Wild Mind. So going on and listening to Bodhipaksha and the work that he talks about, his meditations, his talks are always inspirational. And I actually had the great privilege to meet Bodhipaksha on Saturday when he came to the Sydney Buddhist Centre. It was his first visit ever to Australia, and it was really uplifting. And
was he part of the karaoke?
No. I couldn't imagine Bodhipaksha doing karaoke. Mind you.
Excellent. And now, what's one piece of advice that you wish you had have received at the start of your business? I know in some, you're really at that point now, but is there anything that you've received and you thought, that's brilliant advice, I need to follow that?
You have really got to be ready to learn a whole raft of new skills when you come from corporate and so much is done for you. This is what you've got to be prepared to learn. I didn't know that I would be able to create email marketing lists, tidy up my website, do redesigns within it, think about the terms and conditions on my website from a legal perspective and protecting my trademarks. That I had to do a lot more of that with the support of some people, but you have to be much more hands-on rather than passing it to another department and thinking, oh, well, that's their job, because actually it's your job. It's your business.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And sort of the key is as you go through your journey is handing, as you get more comfortable, that you hand off some of those things so you focus on the things that you're best at, and you end up getting to a situation where you've got some really great suppliers that can actually handle that. So I think you're dead right. You have to do it at the start, but I think the difference between success and however that's measured is that you can let go as your business starts to grow. I think that's really important. So how can people find out more about you, Clarissa?
They can go to my website, nenconsulting.com.au, and you can learn more about me, read some of my blogs, and see some of the things that I'm teaching. Okay,
excellent. Well, I really thank you, Clarissa, for sharing your journey today. I thoroughly enjoyed working with you at Coke. I know how professional you are and how passionate you are, and I'm just so happy to hear where I suppose this new path is taking you, because I know you will be successful given your performance in the past. I think it's a great thing that society needs that you're providing, and also I think the work that you do around your cause is also very inspirational, and is a true rounded BLG member. You're exactly the type of person that we love to have in our community. So we wish you every success, and thank you for sharing your thoughts today.
Thank you, Paul, for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you for listening to the Build, Live, Give show. If you found this show helpful, please share it with others so we can build businesses, live great lives, and give back to the community. If you would like to join the BLG community, go to our website, www.buildlivegive.com. Until next time, thanks for listening.